Welcome to this deep dive. We sift through different sources to get you up to speed quickly. Today, we're getting into something quite complex
Mm.
friendships that, well, end up harming our well being.
Yeah, it's a really common struggle, actually. Friendships are so important, but sometimes those connections can turn into sources of significant stress.
Definitely. And we're using a discussion from the EDP English Dialogue podcast channel as our guide today.
That's right. Understanding these dynamics is pretty crucial for protecting our mental health.
So, our mission here is to pull out what really makes a friendship toxic, spot those signs. The EDP discussion highlighted some obvious, some not so much,
Mm.
and really importantly, figure out practical ways to handle these situations. That includes knowing when it might be time to, step back for your own good.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. What is a toxic friendship? The EDP talk really stressed that it's about a consistent pattern of negative behavior.
Right, not just occasional friction.
Exactly. It's behavior from one or both people that consistently harms the other person's well-being. It's way beyond the normal ups and downs or the odd disagreement.
Okay, that consistency point feels key. Because, every friendship has bumps, doesn't it? Arguments happen. How do you tell that apart from something genuinely toxic?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Mhm.
The EDP speakers really honed in on the repetition. It's the recurring nature of the negativity.
So it's not about one fight.
No, it's about a cycle of interactions that just leaves you feeling drained or maybe small or just generally worse off again and again.
Got it. So not just a bad day, but like a permanent weather front of bad feeling. What kind of recurring negative stuff did the EDT discussion flag up? What should we be watching for?
Well, one major sign they talked about is a consistent lack of real support. In healthy friendships, you cheer each other on.
Sure, that's kind of the point.
But in a toxic one, you might get this subtle undermining. Maybe a comment that sounds okay on the surface but actually cuts you down, or they downplay something you're proud of.
The old just being realistic line when they're actually just raining on your parade.
Exactly. And that can be tricky because it's not always outright mean, but it definitely erodes your confidence over time. They almost seem uncomfortable when you succeed.
Yeah, I can see that. It's insidious. What else came up in the EDP chat?
Constant criticism was another big one. Now look, a good friend might give you constructive feedback sometimes, carefully.
Right, out of concern.
Yes. But toxic criticism, it's
Yeah.
relentless. It doesn't seem to have a helpful point. It just sort of belittles you, makes you feel bad about yourself. It wounds you rather than helping you grow.
There's a huge difference, isn't there, between someone gently pointing something out because they care and someone who just seems to nitpick everything you do, that feeling of never being good enough. Ugh.
Absolutely.
Did they talk about manipulation? That feels like it fits here too.
They did, yeah. Manipulation came up. It can look like different things, like guilt tripping, making you feel overly responsible for their feelings or problems.
Oh, that's a classic.
Or maybe they always play the victim to get their way. And your needs, your boundaries, they just kind of get ignored in the process.
Feeling like you're constantly being maneuvered or that your own feelings just don't count. That must be exhausting. Any other patterns?
Jealousy and competition were mentioned too. If a friend seems like they always have to one-up you, or they genuinely seem resentful when things go well for you,
Yeah.
it just creates this hostile vibe. Real support can't grow there. It turns the friendship into a sort of constant contest.
Ugh, that sounds draining. Being in competition with someone you're supposed to feel safe with, and that comparison probably messes with your head too.
It really does. And finally, the EDP discussion hit on something fundamental: honesty, or rather, the lack of it.
Dishonesty, yeah.
Yeah, a pattern of deceit. Trust is just the bedrock, isn't it? If someone is repeatedly dishonest, it shatters that trust. You end up with suspicion, insecurity.
Yeah.
You can't have a real connection like that.
No, absolutely not. You can't build on lies. Okay, so we've got these patterns: lack of support, constant criticism, manipulation, jealousy, dishonesty. What's the overall impact? How does being around this stuff affect your mental health?
Well, the EDP chat was pretty clear.
Uh-huh.
Being constantly exposed to that kind of negativity,
Yeah.
it can seriously ramp up your stress, your anxiety,
I bet.
and it can even contribute to feeling depressed. It takes a real toll. So spotting these signs early, that's really key for protecting yourself.
Makes total sense. It just wears you down. So, okay, let's say someone listening is recognizing some of these patterns. What are the first steps? What did the EDP discussion suggest for actually addressing it?
The first big step, according to the EDP folks, is setting clear boundaries.
Boundaries, okay.
Particularly communicating clearly, assertively, what behavior isn't acceptable to you and what needs to change for the friendship to feel healthier.
Right. Setting boundaries sounds crucial, but also potentially really awkward or difficult. How do you even start that conversation without it blowing up?
That's a fair point. The EDP discussion suggested focusing on the behavior and how it impacts you, using I statements, like, when X happens, I feel Y.
Instead of, you always do Z.
Exactly. Less attacking, more about your experience. And crucially, they stressed that setting a boundary isn't just saying it once, you have to consistently enforce it.
Ah, the follow through.
Yes. That might mean limiting time together, or maybe avoiding certain topics that always seem to go south.
Right. You can't just say, don't cross this line and then let them step over it every time. But
Right.
what if they just keep ignoring the boundaries no matter how clearly you state them?
Yeah, the EDP conversation acknowledged that happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes, despite your best efforts, the toxic stuff continues. And in those cases, well, it might be necessary to distance yourself
Yeah.
or even end the friendship.
Wow. Okay. That's a big step.
It is. It's often a really tough emotional decision. But the speakers emphasize that your own mental and emotional health has to come first. It has to be the priority.
So it's about recognizing that some relationships, maybe despite a long history, just become genuinely bad for you. And ending it isn't failing, it's self-protection.
Precisely. That's a great way to put it. The EDP discussion really framed it that way. Choosing to leave a toxic friendship isn't about your worth or some kind of personal failure. It's a positive choice to protect your well-being.
To make space for healthier things.
Exactly. To build an environment where you can actually grow and to prioritize connections that genuinely lift you up.
That's a powerful way to think about it because the guilt can be huge, can it? But reframing it as self-preservation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so after setting boundaries or maybe deciding to step back, what about the internal work? Did the EDP chat mention self-reflection?
Oh, definitely. Self-reflection came up as really valuable. Taking time to understand why you were drawn into that friendship in the first place.
What do you mean?
Well, were there maybe some unmet needs you had? Or some insecurities that perhaps made you more likely to tolerate the negative behavior? Figuring that out can be super helpful for making different choices next time.
Ah, so learning from it, not just moving on. Understanding your own patterns.
Exactly. That kind of self-awareness is huge for personal growth.
Huh.
It helps you spot patterns and be more intentional about who you let into your inner circle. And the EDP discussion also mentioned the importance of getting support.
Right, not going through it alone.
Yeah. Talking to other trusted friends, family, maybe even a therapist, getting that outside perspective can make a massive difference when things feel confusing or isolating.
Absolutely, it can give you strength and clarity.
Leaning on that support system reminds you you're not alone and that people do care about your well-being. And another thing the EDP contributors really stressed was self-compassion.
Being kind to yourself through it all.
Yes, because letting go is often a process, not an event. And you might feel a whole mess of things, sadness, maybe relief, anger, guilt.
All valid feelings.
Totally. And it's okay to feel all of that without judging yourself. Healing takes time. You need to be patient with yourself as you navigate it.
Patience and self-compassion. Got it. So, moving forward practically, what concrete steps did the EDP discussion suggest for getting back on track in a positive way?
They offered quite a few actionable things. One big one was actively focusing on self-care.
Self-care, like bubble baths.
Well, maybe,
Yeah.
but it's broader than that. It's anything that nurtures you. Exercise, hobbies you enjoy, mindfulness, spending time in nature, things that replenish your energy.
Ah, okay. Things that refill your cup after it's been drained.
Exactly. And that reinforces the positive changes you're making. Another useful strategy they discussed was to consciously think about what friendship really means to you.
Redefining it.
Yeah, reflecting on the qualities you truly value, support, trust, fun, whatever it is, and then intentionally seeking relationships that actually have those qualities. It helps build a better social circle going forward.
So being more intentional about who you connect with.
And related to that, actively networking or finding ways to make new connections.
Like joining clubs or something.
Could be. Or events related to your interests, volunteering, places you might meet people who are on your wavelength. But the EDP speakers also added a note of caution. Take it slow. Let new friendships develop naturally.
Right, no need to rush. Quality over quantity. Building real connections takes time. Okay, so after going through all this, recognizing the toxicity, setting boundaries, maybe ending things, doing the self-reflection, what are the positive results? What good things can come out of this, according to the EDP discussion?
Several really significant benefits came up. Firstly, by removing that source of negativity, you literally create space in your life
Space for what?
for more positive, genuinely supportive relationships to come in or deepen. And this often leads to, quite simply, more happiness, better mental health, and a stronger sense of your own worth.
Like a weight lifted, allowing better things to grow.
Exactly. And it also often sparks personal growth without being constantly drained by the drama or negativity.
Aw.
You find you have more energy and mental focus for your own goals, your passions, your aspirations. It frees you up.
That makes so much sense. Toxic stuff is incredibly depleting.
It really is. And one more thing. Making that choice to step away sets a new standard. It establishes a healthier template for how you expect and deserve to be treated in all your relationships.
Ah, so it reinforces your boundaries for the future.
Precisely. It strengthens your self-respect. It makes you
Yeah.
more likely to attract and maintain relationships that are actually good for you, respectful, supportive, mutual.
It's like drawing that line in the sand. This is how I deserve to be treated. That feels pretty powerful.
It really is. It's a big step towards a life filled with more positive connections. And remember, prioritizing your own well-being, making those tough calls for your own happiness. It's not just okay, it's essential.
Wow. Well, this has been incredibly insightful, a really thorough deep dive into something that, yeah, touches so many people's lives. It's a good reminder that we have agency in our friendships, and protecting our well-being has to be key.
Absolutely. Choosing to let go of relationships that consistently bring you down isn't weakness. It's actually a very courageous act that paves the way for a greater happiness and growth down the line.
So here's a final thought for you, our listener. Maybe take a moment this week, just think about one friendship in your life. Does it generally lift you up, leave you feeling energized, or does it more often leave you feeling drained or somehow less than? Based on what we've explored today, is there maybe one small, actionable step you could take this week towards nurturing healthier connections?